Hey, it's Mr. Shrum. Welcome to Advisory. I hope you all had a great spring break. Hopefully you were able to relax and not focus on school so much this past week. Um, for Advisory, all I really have are reminders for you. The June 30th deadline for Oklahoma Promise. That is a scholarship that can help a lot of people get to college or university, technical college, whatever you want. If you go to school within Oklahoma, that can help you afford um, life after high school education. And you also have these Everfi lessons to complete. And if you haven't seen these yet, I'll just post this little overview of the lessons you'll be going through. And yeah, hopefully it'll give you a better understanding of what to expect. But the first group of lessons in Everfi you can find in Clever, I'll show you right here. It looks like this, Everfi, kind of orange and gray lettering. And let me go back. It looks something like this to log in. And then the first group of lesson is over prescription drug safety. And I can show you the objectives for each, but it's the basics, science of addiction, understanding prescription, safe use, refusal skills, supporting a friend, and I'll click on this overview. And I'll give you a little, there we go. Now you can see prescription drug abuse and misuse is a growing issue, with opioid abuse now the leading cause of accidental deaths in the United States. Reversing this trend will require a focused population-wide approach. With 1 in 5 high school seniors reporting that they have misused prescription drugs, reaching students early is now more important than ever. So this lesson is an innovative digital course that arms high school students with knowledge and tools to make healthy, informed decisions when it comes to prescription medications. And through various scenarios, self-guided activities, you're going to learn about drugs, how to properly use and dispose of them, and then a step-by-step process when you're faced with a situation involving misuse, whether that's a family member, your friend. You know, it's tough to deal with these types of things if you've ever experienced addiction or knew someone who has been through that. It's tough. So this lesson focuses on evidence-based universal public health approaches to this learning. It tries to be interactive with scenarios that reinforce these objectives that we're trying to learn. And yeah, so this document is actually aimed at teachers, but I'm just showing it to you for the heck of it. Topics include opioids, stimulants, depressants. Hopefully you know what those are, but if you don't, this will teach you. Proper prescription drug use, storage, disposal, brain and body, the science of addiction, simulations, debunking common myths. And here's the general flow of things. The basics, science of addiction, understanding prescriptions, safe use, refusal skills, supporting a friend. One in three teens believe there is nothing wrong with using prescription medicines without a prescription once in a while. And hopefully, through this lesson, you'll learn that just because you're not prescribed something or you take it occasionally, it doesn't mean you can't develop some type of addiction to something. And we want you to make informed decisions, right? Let me zoom into this. So here's an example of one of the slides. An important life skill: prescription medications prescribed by doctors are an important part of healthcare. Taking a prescription the right way is critical to your health and safety. So I'm sure some of your parents or guardians take some type of medication for some type of illness or um, however you want to label that term. What's the right way? Above all, be sure you understand and follow doctor's instructions precisely. They deal with measuring out certain drugs, which drugs can go with certain things. Don't take this with alcohol. Don't make sure you eat with this. Take this one on an empty stomach. You know, the closer you follow those types of instructions, the less likely you're going to have any adverse effects, um, get addicted, overdose, any of that negative, any of those negative consequences. So, important information about your medication. That includes the amount to take, how to take it, when to take it, how long to take it, and when not to take it. So, kind of what I just said. And if you have any questions about medication, you know, contact your doctor or pharmacist. They should be very willing to talk to you about this type of thing. Always keep medication in its original packaging so that the instructions are readily available. Don't put other drugs or pills into other bottles. It just gets confusing, and you're gonna wind up making some type of mistake. The first step in understanding how to safely use prescription medications is interpreting the label. So this will show you how to read labels. It'll ask you questions about when and how the user should take medications after you read a label. So it's just testing if you can figure out what's going on. Refusal skills. All right, so high school students need to practice how they'd respond if they find themselves in a situation involving potential misuse of prescription drugs. Now, this is a useful tool for any area of your life, practicing things in your head before they actually happen. So, if you imagine getting into arguments or someone says something to you, imagining what you say in response can help you actually deal with that situation in real life. And in this situation, prescription drugs are involved. So these will have scenarios, and students, you all, will explore the thoughts of their peers, look at common myths when a classmate offers drugs to help with studying. They also step into the shoes of a student who is asked for their leftover medications and see the real results of their choices. So here's an example of each module description, and then the objectives of each one. The basics. Before diving deep into topics like the science of addiction and effective refusal strategies, it's important to understand the basics. For instance, what are the different types of prescription drugs? How do they affect the body? What are some of their harmful side effects? Those are some questions students find answers to in this lesson. So the learning objectives, that means students will be able to do these things at the end of the module. Identify the common street and brand names of 3 major prescription drug categories. Describe the positive effects on those with valued need and prescription. Describe the potential negative effects on brain and body if the drug is misused or abused. Describe the possible legal consequences of misusing prescription drugs. That's all in the basics. Science of addiction. Effective prevention education begins with the facts. So we're going to look at how addiction affects the brain and body and how that can be important for recovery. And more importantly, it can be information that helps students avoid addiction altogether. This lesson also contains personal stories from people who have recovered from addiction. Recovery is possible, it's not easy, but there are people that do it, and it's a good thing to hear them out, hear their side of the story, and learn from their experiences because they are usually pretty open about how this affected their lives. Understanding prescriptions, proper usage, storage, and disposal of prescription drugs are critically important to prevention of misuse and abuse. Whether it's reading a prescription label or properly disposing of unused drugs, this knowledge can help keep individuals and the people around them safe. So, understanding these prescriptions can hopefully avoid all of these negative issues with the drugs altogether. Oh, and I'll go back to the learning objectives of the science of addiction. Explain that anyone can become addicted to prescription drugs. There's nothing, one person's not any more likely besides like behavioral issues, but anyone can. I know people that I would have never thought they would be addicted to drugs in that way, and it happens. So, and that's okay. It's they're not bad people because they get addicted to drugs. It's not like that. Describe how drugs impact the brain and can lead to addiction problems. Define terms such as withdrawal and tolerance and their relationship to addiction. Describe how many addicts can manage their addictions and recover in a supportive environment. A supportive environment is very necessary. If you're surrounded by a bunch of people shaming you for being addicted to drugs and then not offering you any help or emotional support, it's no surprise that person has trouble recovering from drug addiction. So if you know people that are addicted, make sure you're encouraging them. Let them know that you're here for them for emotional support, and if they're willing to get help, know that you are willing to help them through anything, right? Family, friends. If you're close with anyone like that, make sure they know that you are there for them. Objectives for understanding prescriptions. Explain the importance of following instructions precisely. Describe the factors that doctor consider when writing a prescription for an individual. Read and understand prescription labels, including caution or risk statements. Store and dispose of unused drugs safely and appropriately. Safe use. Not all prescription drugs are harmful, and not all prescription drug use is harmful. There are cases where prescription drugs are necessary. And even in those circumstances, it's possible to veer off the path. This lesson involves scenarios where students guide characters to the smart choices regarding prescription drug use. Explain why taking a depressant with another depressant like alcohol can be dangerous, or that is just dangerous. Explain why taking more pain medication or taking it more frequently than directed is not safe. Understand that misusing prescription drugs, even once, is not safe use. So, That will lead into refusal skills. Prescription drugs can be most dangerous when they are unprescribed and just being used recreationally. Recreationally meaning kind of casually. No doctor prescribed them to you. You just found these. Your friend either had them, your parents had them, or you just found them somewhere, right? And through scenarios in this lesson, you're going to learn how to effectively refuse prescription drugs, hopefully. The objectives will be articulate that most students do not misuse prescription drugs and would support a friend's decision not to misuse drugs, right? So if you care about someone and they say no, that's the answer, right? You're not going to pressure them into doing something they don't want. And that goes beyond drug use too. Like, don't be annoying like that. And it's it's not a cool thing to do at all. Respect people's wishes. And if people are offering you things, resist peer pressure and other influences to take prescription drugs outside a medical professional's advice. Now, it's easier said than done. Socially, it can be hard to say no to friends, right? And that is a time when you need to focus on bigger picture things, right? The ethical, moral obligation that you have, especially if someone's addicted and maybe they don't have the ability to admit that they're addicted. You need to consider what you need to do to help others. But this is about refusing things for yourself. And that really comes down to you being convinced that this is the best course of action to say no to prescription drugs and to avoid addiction. And really, that takes conviction, a knowledge of what can go wrong, the negative consequences, and to remind yourself resisting peer pressure is the best course of action. And step in to support a friend who is being pressured, misusing, selling, or giving prescription drugs to others. So it's hard, but stepping in, standing up for others that may not be in a good emotional place to say no to people. I don't know. You just got to look out for your friends and family. And if someone's selling and giving prescription drugs to others, yeah, you should definitely confront people. Um, I hope I can look at these lessons to see if these are like good confrontational skills. But yeah, too many people get away with doing these types of things. And the more people that stand up and say no, some people just need to be shaken up a little. Like, hey, you're selling prescription drugs, really? And hopefully that will get them to stop. And then if that doesn't stop, then you probably shouldn't associate with these people at this time in their life. Anyway, moving on. Describe the potential side effects of taking prescription drugs outside of a prescription. So, more of the same. And then supporting a friend is the last module. Students recognize warning signs of a friend in trouble and take concrete steps to help and support them. Students also respond to a situation involving an overdose and review the most important takeaways from the course. Objectives: recognize the signs of prescription drug misuse and addiction, resist barriers to action, seek assistance if experiencing a problem with prescription drugs, identify signs of a prescription drug overdose, care for someone in a potential overdose situation. Um, yeah, so if you've ever been in this situation, it can be very scary and nerve wracking, honestly. Um, I don't want to get into too many details, but I know some people that have experienced overdoses or alcohol poisoning, anything like that, and it is really scary. Even if you're prepared for it, your adrenaline's gonna be high, heart rate's gonna be high. Um, but hopefully you're able to catch the warning signs of a friend in trouble. If something's not okay at home or they're emotionally distressed, they're likely to, rely on these drugs to um, null a pain that they're not able to deal with, either through other means like therapy, counseling, um, and things like that. But really, this is a tough subject, guys. There's no way to get around that. And if you need someone to talk to, I'm here for you. If you're going through that, or if you know anybody going through that, and if you don't want to reach out to people in the school, there are health professionals out there um, that you can reach out to for this type of thing. But that is the prescription drug safety portion of the Everfi. And I think I'll stop this video here and then I'll pick it up with the next section. See you guys in a bit.